You are standing at a backyard barbecue on a perfectly ordinary Saturday afternoon. Your paper plate bends slightly under the weight of food you barely wanted. The sun is doing that low golden thing it does in late summer. Your neighbor is talking, casually, the way people talk when something is not a big deal to them. He says he paid cash for his daughter's first semester of college. Not a loan, not a payment plan. Cash, like he is describing a grocery run. You nod slowly and take a long sip of your drink. You smile the smile people smile when they are processing something their face has not caught up to yet. You drive home 20 minutes later in your 9-year-old sedan with the small scratch above the rear wheel. You set your keys on the counter and you do not move for a long moment. Something is turning over in your head, slow and heavy, like a wheel finding its groove. You keep thinking about your neighbor in that faded polo shirt. Then you think about the guy 2 streets over with the leased luxury vehicle, the boat he posts about twice a year, and the kitchen renovation that costs more than some people's down payments. You stand there in your own hallway, and the realization moves through you like cold water. You are the polo shirt guy. You have always been the polo shirt guy. You just never had a name for what you were quietly doing this whole time. You start running the signs through your head one at a time. Each one lands with the specific weight of something you already knew but never said out loud. You drive a car that makes people feel a mild and unspoken sympathy for you. You have driven it for 9 years and the plan is 4 more at minimum. You remember the exact number you paid because you negotiated it down twice and the drive home felt genuinely satisfying in a way you still remember. You pass dealerships every single week and nothing in your body responds to the inventory on the lot. You watch coworkers sign new lease agreements every 3 years and you say absolutely nothing. You just calculate quietly what that monthly payment compiles to over a decade and a strange calm settles into your chest. You always assumed that calm was just your personality. You are now realizing it is something much more specific and much more intentional than personality. You are not indifferent to quality or to comfort. You are indifferent to the financial cost of impressing people who are not watching, and those 2 things look identical from the outside, but they are completely different creatures on the inside. The shrug you give when people ask why you never upgraded is not laziness or contentment or an inability to dream bigger. You are simply refusing to light money on fire for an audience that moved on before the smoke cleared. Your house confuses people who know what you earn. You bought something reasonable, something that fit inside a number that did not make your chest tighten at 2 in the morning. You remember looking at the larger houses in the newer developments, the ones with the stone facades and the 3-car garages and the finished basements. You remember standing in those open houses and feeling nothing except a quiet and automatic arithmetic concern forming in the back of your mind. The math on those houses told a story you did not like. You understand at a structural level that a house is not just shelter or status or a good investment hedge. You understand that the mortgage you choose sets the floor your entire financial life is built on. The neighborhood sets your social pressure. The square footage sets 100 invisible obligations you never signed your name to out loud. You chose the normal house. You chose the lower payment. You chose the floor that left room underneath it, and you have been living quietly and correctly in that room ever since. You open your closet in your mind right now and you do an honest inventory of what you see. Clothes that fit well and hold their shape and carry no logo that anyone could identify from 20 feet away. You have never once stood in a store and thought about what the label on the outside would communicate to the people around you. You think about durability per use. You think about whether something still holds up in 5 years. You have paid real money for certain things and you have no memory of what the markup was because you bought on function and you kept it until it wore through. You are not performing modesty for anyone. You are genuinely unbothered by the performance itself, and that distinction is the entire thing. You built this with your own hands and your own decisions over a long, unglamorous stretch of time. You sit with that for a moment because it genuinely matters. You did not inherit a portfolio or receive a check that redirected your financial trajectory. You received, if anything, the quiet example of people who were careful and consistent and completely unglamorous about how they handled money. You absorbed that example the way children absorb accents without noticing, until one day it was simply how you spoke the language of every financial decision you made. You spend less than you make. You invest the difference. You repeat this without drama or ceremony across entire decades. You are not a financial genius. You are not lucky in the way lottery winners are lucky. You are someone who showed up to the same boring and unremarkable practice every single week while everyone around you was waiting for the moment that changes everything. You did not become wealthy by finding a shortcut. You became wealthy by genuinely not needing one, which is the rarest kind of discipline there is. You have a job that nobody finds interesting at a party. You have watched people's eyes drift slightly when you tell them your title. You are an engineer or an accountant or a manager, or you run some quiet and unglamorous small operation that solves a problem no one romanticizes. You are not a founder or a disruptor. You show up, you do the work carefully and consistently, you collect the income, you invest what is left, you go home. You have been doing this long enough that the math has had the time it needed to work, and the math, given enough time and consistency, always works without fail. You think sometimes about the gas station janitor in a small northeastern town who died with $8 million quietly sitting in blue-chip holdings because he simply bought and held for 60 years without ever making a single headline. You recognize yourself in the outline of his story even though your details differ, because the shape of it is the same shape as yours. You are boring, and you are building, and you are winning by a margin the interesting people cannot currently see from where they are standing. You know your numbers the way you know your own address. You know your net worth within $10,000 on any given Tuesday in any given month. You know your monthly spending rate. You know your savings rate as a precise percentage of your income, and you know whether it moved up or down this year and exactly why it moved. You know what your portfolio holds and roughly what it is returning, and you have a real opinion about your allocation that is based on actual considered thought rather than something you picked up at a dinner party. You treat your financial life as something that deserves consistent attention, and you give it that attention, and it responds to the attention the way anything living responds when someone bothers to actually pay it. You are not anxious about money. You are fluent in it, the way people are fluent in a language they have been speaking since childhood. You are calm in the specific way that people are calm when they have already done the preparation and they know exactly what they are looking at without flinching. You have never once carried a credit card balance past a statement date. You use the card, you pay the card, every single month without exception going back as far as you care to remember. You collect the rewards and enjoy the convenience, and you have paid zero interest to any institution because you made a decision somewhere early on that paying interest on things that are already losing value is a category of behavior you simply do not participate in. You watch an entire country carry over $1 trillion in rotating credit card debt at 23% annual interest, and you feel something that is not quite superiority but is definitively not envy either. You understand at a geometric level that the interest rate working against a credit card balance is roughly the same rate that is supposed to be working for you inside the market, and running both simultaneously strikes you as almost mathematically offensive. You are calm about unexpected expenses in a way that occasionally unnerves the people around you. You are calm because you are not paying interest to anyone and you have reserves, and the unexpected thing, whatever it turns out to be, is just a number you already have the capacity to handle without restructuring your life. You are vague when people at social events ask what you do for work. You give the short version. You redirect with a question about them, and you mean the question, and the conversation moves forward, and you never feel the pull to establish your value through your job title or the size of your team or the prestige of your industry. You are not hiding anything. You are genuinely more interested in the other person than in performing your own resume, and you have noticed over years of paying close attention that the people who talk the most about what they earn are almost never the people who have the most sitting quietly behind them. You have been in rooms where someone spent 45 minutes carefully establishing their professional credibility. You did the quiet mental math during those 45 minutes and you realized they were working backward from a lifestyle running slightly ahead of their actual income. You said nothing. You asked them another question. You drove home in your 9-year-old car and thought about compounding interest at highway speeds. You have income streams your primary employer does not know about and that you have never once posted about anywhere. A rental property or a dividend-generating portfolio or a small side operation that has been quietly producing cash in the background for years while your main job got all the visible credit for your lifestyle. You have never filmed yourself explaining the setup. You never positioned it as content or a course or a dinner party talking point. You bought the asset, you configured it, it runs, you reinvest the income, and you move forward without ceremony. You think it would be strange to announce it publicly, the same way you would think it's strange to announce that you own a functional appliance. It is just infrastructure. It is just part of how the financial architecture of your life is constructed. You have real options because of it. The kind of options where you could leave your primary job tomorrow and not spiral into panic. The kind where you could take 6 months and not flinch at the math. That optionality is worth more to you than any signal the income itself could broadcast if you chose to make noise about it. You live in a neighborhood where you are near the upper end rather than the bottom rung. You made this choice quietly, and you made it correctly. You are not in the most expensive zip code you could have stretched yourself into on paper. You are in the zip code where your house is solid but not the smallest one on the block. where your car is ordinary but not embarrassing relative to the driveways around you, where the schools are good and the social pressure does not convert automatically into a spending obligation you never asked for. You feel almost no ambient pressure to upgrade your visible life, because the visual references around you are not aspirational in a direction that causes pain. You removed the mechanism. You eliminated the specific environment that converts comparison into consumption. You understood, without necessarily reading the academic literature on it, that your zip code can quietly consume your retirement decade by decade if you allow it to, and you did not allow it. You play extraordinary defense with your portfolio, and you have for years. You do not try to time the market on instinct. You do not chase the asset class that appeared all over the financial news last quarter. You do not panic and liquidate when something drops, and you do not pile in breathlessly when something is suddenly everywhere. You buy the broad index and you do nothing, and you keep doing nothing consistently across years, and the nothing compounds at a rate that is genuinely beautiful if you know how to read it. You have watched people around you churn their portfolios in search of the angle, and you held your positions in silence and outperformed them by staying completely still. You know that building wealth and protecting wealth are two distinct and separate skills. You have spent real effort developing both of them without making either one a personality trait or a social identity. You think in decades. You thought in decades when you were in your 20s, and it felt abstract and uncomfortable, and you did it anyway, because the discomfort of the long view was smaller than the risk of not having one. You think about your car in terms of remaining service years. You think about your investments in terms of what the trajectory looks like in 30 years at a conservative growth estimate. You made decisions about your home and your career and your savings rate with a time horizon that makes most people shift uncomfortably in their chairs when you mention it. You understood earlier than most that compounding does not care about your intelligence, your creativity, your charisma, or how interesting you appear at a summer barbecue in your own backyard. Compounding only cares about time and consistency and patience. You showed up with all three, quietly, without applause, without anyone watching, for long enough that the math became undeniable. You buy time and you buy options, and you almost never buy things to announce yourself. You run every significant financial decision through a single question at this point without even consciously thinking about it. Does this make you freer, or does this make you more obligated to something you did not choose? The smaller house made you freer. The reliable car made you freer. Eliminating interest payments made you freer. The side income made you freer. Investing the difference between what you earn and what you spend made you freer. You know what enough actually means, and you live inside that knowledge with a quiet and completely unperformative confidence. You are not running from wealth, and you are not chasing the performance of it. You are living inside it, on your own terms, in your own rhythm, which turns out to be the only way it ever actually functions the way it is supposed to. You are the polo shirt at the barbecue. You are the 9-year-old sedan in the driveway and the porch furniture that has been there long enough to look like it grew there. You are the person your neighbors glance at with mild and well-meaning concern, and you are completely fine with that assessment, because you know exactly what is sitting in the numbers behind the ordinary and unremarkable surface of your life. The real twist is not that you found out you are secretly wealthy. The real twist is that you built it so quietly, so consistently, and so completely without an audience that even you forgot to look at what you had made. The wealth was never the destination. The wealth was the result of 1,000 small, boring, correct decisions made by someone who understood that money, at its actual core, is not about what you can display. Money, at its actual core, is about what you never have to explain to anyone ever again. Click the subscribe button to never miss a video from me. Hit the like button and share with friends. This helps the algorithm push the video to people who needs it.